Iran's Revolutionary Guards say they destroyed critical Amazon data infrastructure in Bahrain and targeted U.S. defense assets in response to Washington's latest attacks.
2 French firefighters died during a building fire that broke out near Bordeaux airport. Nearly 200,000 hectares had burned across the European Union by mid-July.
The bid to have the D-Day landing beaches listed as UNESCO World Heritage has entered a decisive phase.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed on Tuesday that its forces had destroyed the central data infrastructure of Amazon in Bahrain using several cruise missiles. The Iranian military branch also claimed that the same attacks targeted U.S. air defense systems and radar installations in the Gulf Arab country. Bahraini and U.S. officials, as well as high-ranking representatives of Jeff Bezos' Amazon, have yet to respond to the claims. The reported strikes come as direct military confrontations between Iran and the United States continued for a 10th consecutive day, despite a fragile ceasefire being in place and diplomatic efforts. Iran's recent attacks have extended beyond the Gulf region, over the past few days targeting Jordan, where the U.S. maintains troop presence, killing 3 service members in an attack. U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to make Iran, quote, pay many times over for its killing of the U.S. troops. Washington has in turn continued to target Tehran's military sites and assets and have even reportedly launched strikes on the Darkovan nuclear power plant. The UN's nuclear watchdog said it's reviewing reports of the attack, but has not yet issued an independent assessment of the incident.
A Lebanese military convoy deployed Tuesday in a southern village partially occupied by Israeli troops as part of a framework agreement reached between the two countries last month. The US announced on Monday the beginning of operations in 3 villages, part of a so-called pilot zone. In one of the villages, Lebanese soldiers will operate near an Israeli-occupied area. The mayor says he is concerned for the safety of his town given the nearby presence of Israeli soldiers. He's waiting for the Lebanese army to tell locals whether it is safe to check on their homes.
احنا بعد ما يعطينا اذن الجيش بالدخول على زوطة الغربية كمواطنين بنفوت لانه الجيش موجود بس بنطل بنشوف شو في داخل زوطة الغربية وبنحمل حالنا ومفل استقرار ما فينا وما بنقدر اصلا ما بنقدر لا بكل التفاصيل ما بنقدر مثل ما قلت لك البنى التحتية كلها معدومة البيوت كلها بالارض جرفوا الطرقات الرئيسية جرفوها فلحوها يعني.
The Lebanese army urged the residents of the village not to return before the security situation is calm. However, an Israeli military official said withdrawal of Israeli troops had not yet started. The deployment comes as Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun meets with US President Donald Trump in Washington.
An LPG tanker sailing across the Black Sea toward a Ukrainian port caught fire off the coast of Romania. Romania's president said that the incident was most likely linked to Russia's war in Ukraine. The ship was carrying more than 3,790 tons of propane. It had departed from the port of Alexandria in Egypt and was heading to the Ukrainian port of Reni, situated on the Danube River. The vessel was carrying a crew of 17 members. 3 of them required emergency medical care. In Ukraine, a Russian drone killed 3 people in a residential neighborhood in Sumy, according to the regional governor. Russian forces carried out a series of strikes on the city and attacked firefighters as they attempted to extinguish a fire. In Russia, a fire broke out during the night near a thermal and power station in the city of Lipetsk.
2 firefighters died on Tuesday during an intervention against a building fire that broke out near Bordeaux airport. According to the airport management, the fire first broke out in a green area outside the grounds near the parking lot. The flames caused major air traffic disruption, average delays of 65 minutes, and the suspension of landings. The incident comes as wildfires have burned more than 42,000 hectares of land in France by mid-July 2026, surpassing the previous record set in 2022. Wildfires during the first 2 weeks of July alone burned nearly 50,000 hectares, hitting the Fontainebleau forest near Paris, as well as southern France and Corsica.
As you can see from the smoke behind me, firefighters are continuing to battle wildfires across southern France today. And it comes as a fresh outbreak of fires have taken place here in Provence and also in the Côte d'Azur. Here in Cotignac, we've been issued evacuation orders for part of the village, and that follows new fires in the areas of La Tournai, Pontevedra and down in Les Arcs. Overhead we're seeing helicopters as well as planes carrying those water buckets trying to assist putting out those fires. And this also comes as temperatures continue to rise right across Europe.
Meanwhile, in Spain, the La Mierla fire in Guadalajara is improving after burning nearly 30,000 hectares, though major fires in Ejulve and Brieva remain active. In Almeria, recovery work has begun after the Los Galardos fire killed 13 people and burned more than 7,000 hectares. Violent fires also raged in Sicily, near Castronovo di Sicilia, where blazes have flared up once again. Planes and helicopters dumped water to take control of the situation. Across the wider region, EFIS recorded that nearly 200,000 hectares had burned across the European Union by mid-July 2026, driven by a severe drought following a historic June heat wave. French MPs and senators voted on a final compromise text for the bill and banned social media for under 15-year-olds on Tuesday. French MP and rapporteur for the bill Laura Miller said that French policymakers wanted to impose much stricter constraints on digital platforms because EU law had restricted their room for maneuver.
Vraiment, le droit de l'Union européenne, aujourd'hui, il nous permet juste, il y a juste une toute petite porte qui s'est ouverte l'été dernier avec les lignes directrices, il nous permet juste de fixer un âge limite dans le droit national.
Other EU countries such as Greece, Slovenia and Sweden are also planning to restrict social media to minors. Spain is considering banning social media for children under 16 and Austria for children under 14. In parallel, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, called earlier this month for phased and gradual access for different age ranges to digital platforms.
If we start with the youngest, toddlers, no screens at all. Then children under the age of 13, access to social media only under the supervision of parents, caregivers, teachers, and time limited. And then from the age of 13 on, and that's very important, there's a gradual access depending on the proof given by the platforms that they are age appropriate and safe for teenagers.
Von der Leyen said the European Commission would present a proposal on the matter after summer. A US federal judge has approved a 1.3 billion euro settlement between Anthropic and a group of authors, closing the largest copyright class in US history. The deal was approved on July 20 in San Francisco, rejecting objections from some authors who argued the payout was too small. The settlement, first proposed last September, resolves a class action filed by some writers in August 2024 who accused Anthropic of using pirated books to train its Claude chatbot. Under the deal, authors and publishers will each receive $3,000 from an estimated 500,000 works covered by the settlement. The case followed a June 2025 ruling which found that training Claude on lawfully acquired books qualified as fair use, but that storing millions of pirated books in a central library did not. As Anthropic welcomed the resolution, the plaintiff's lead attorney described it as the largest publicly known copyright recovery in history, while dozens of similar cases continue against OpenAI, Google, and Meta.
These beaches in northwestern France are a site of global historical significance. That is why this stretch, just over 80 kilometers long, could be inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in the coming days. It was here that more than 150,000 men from some 15 countries landed on June the 6th, 1944. More than 4,000 soldiers lost their lives that day, but the Allied landings represented a decisive battle in the liberation of Europe from Nazism. The nomination covers the 5 D-Day beaches, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, Sword, as well as La Pointe du Hoc and the artificial harbour at Arromanches-les-Bains.
Donc ce site avec son port artificiel est présent sur la liste qui est proposée au classement des sites UNESCO, en plus des plages de débarquement, car on considère qu'avec le rôle qu'il a joué très important, on peut considérer que c'est l'équivalent d'une plage de débarquement, même si les troupes n'ont pas directement beaché sur la plage, mais ont transité à travers ce port.
This project, launched in 2008, could also generate significant economic benefits for the Normandy region. A 15% increase in tourism is expected if the designation is awarded. Nearly 1.8 million visitors traveled to the D-Day beaches last year. UNESCO will meet from July the 24th to the 27th in South Korea to reach its decision.
2 tourists were injured on Tuesday morning after a knife attack at the entrance to the Acropolis archaeological site, one of the busiest tourist spots in Athens. According to the Hellenic police, the incident occurred at around 8 a.m. local time when a man attacked a couple of Greek-American tourists. As a result of the attack, the woman sustained a minor injury to her arm, while the man suffered a more serious wound to his leg. Officers from the Dias motorcycle unit arrived immediately at the scene and bandaged the injured leg to stem the bleeding, before an ambulance administered first aid and transported the tourist to the hospital. Shortly before the attack, the emergency police hotline had received a call about a man holding a knife and threatening passerby at the southern entrance opposite the Acropolis Museum. The assailant was subsequently overpowered and arrested by officers from the Athens Police Directorate as authorities investigate the circumstances and work to determine his motives.